This is Sports Bettor Court with Dan Lust on Bettor Sports Network.
Welcome back to the Sports Bettor Court. Another week, another bunch of news in the sports law cycle. Now, for those that are coming new to the show, we talk about sports, we talk about the law, and of course, we talk about the bets. This part of the show, we span the wide world of sports law to talk about, obviously, my lust for law, the biggest conversation that's happening in the sports law space. Last week, we talked about Mel Tucker, who was proceeding into, in early October, first week of October, was going to be a hearing as to whether or not Michigan State could fire him for cause or not. Maybe you don't think that's relevant. Michigan State and $80 million say it's relevant. It's a very big battle for $80 million on the line. We have a very big update in that case, and I want to just maybe provide some life lessons on how to deal when you're accused of any type of wrongdoing, when you have some type of severance on the line. You got to say and do everything that your lawyer tells you to do. If your lawyer told you to do what Mel Tucker did, not really sure quite what to tell you. So Mel Tucker, and this was really to our question last week, we said, what's in Mel Tucker's contract? It's really going to depend as to what's in the contract, devil's in the details. So for those that don't know, Mel Tucker was accused of, emphasis on accused, engaging in some type of, we'll say, non-consensual phone sex with a sexual violence advocate who went around and spoke to schools, right? And this is someone, we're not going to get into the details beyond the highest level of highest levels. Now, why I mention Mel Tucker. Mel Tucker, in investigations, essentially admitted to the act in question, but said it was consensual. Very important here, right? He has admitted to the act. It is not a he said, she said in the sense of whether this act occurred or didn't occur. Mel Tucker is saying that it occurred, and it's just a question of whether it was consensual or not. So when I said this aspect of consensual, I remember very clearly warning you all last week, the devil's in the details of this contract. Even if it's consensual, if it is some act of, we'll say again, non-consensual phone sex, consensual phone sex, if there is some clause in his contract that allows him to be terminated for embarrassing type conduct, even if it's not illegal, even if it doesn't result in a misdemeanor or a felony or something like that, or some type of restraining order, if it's embarrassing, that language sometimes is in contracts, right? Okay, fast forward. I'm going to give you guys this, right? This is a letter sent to Mel Tucker on September 18th, on Monday, by Michigan State. And guess what, guys? We got the contract. Listen to this clause. The coach can be fired. Cause for termination includes in relevant part the following. Ready for this? The coach engages in any conduct which constitutes moral turpitude or which, in the university's reasonable judgment, would tend to bring public disrespect, contempt, or ridicule upon the university, e.g. material insubordination or impropriety involving a student. So it doesn't involve a student. It's not really material insubordination. What it is, right? Conduct in the university's reasonable judgment, which would tend to bring public disrespect or ridicule upon the university. This news cycle, the past week or two or three, however long Mel Tucker's been out, has certainly had that effect in the media. And if I had known that that was in the contract, and I was Mel Tucker's lawyer, I'm not quite sure why I'm admitting to anything, right? Let this go to a hearing. Let the facts fall where they lie. But for Mel Tucker to think that he could make this admission and under the contract have some argument for just cause that, hey, this wasn't fair for them to fire me. The university in their reasonable discretion certainly has the ability to think that those comments, those admissions reflect poorly on the university. So again, I don't necessarily blame Mel Tucker's lawyers this time around, but when that clause appears in that contract, you have to be careful about every admission that you give. Maybe, right, you should have negotiated the walkaway prior to giving those admissions. Maybe you should have assumed that this was going to see the light of day, as these things tend to do. So I think mistakes have been made, and $80 million on the line. I think very quickly we're going to see a lawsuit filed by Mel Tucker for that $80 million, right? He's going to file for it. We'll see what they get. Maybe Michigan State settled this, but I think a lot of mistakes were made between point A, right, agreeing to this contract with that language, and B, making those admissions. And now that we all know, right? Listen, we try to give you some levels of warning. I don't know how many of us out there are signing $80 million contracts, but if you're going to get $80 million handed to you, make sure you know how, why, and under what circumstances your employer can let you go. That has been Lust for Law on this week. We are jam-packed with an NFL-heavy episode of bets, and we will get into it. Best 2 out of 3. We'll go over the format. Excited for this one. When we come back from break, we'll see you back in the courtroom after this.
Like Devon Levi started off in the friend zone and now like he could possibly be wife material. So it is exceptionally hard to trust a rookie goalie in the NHL. The kid is what? He's 21. Like, okay. And he is going to the Buffalo Sabres. But we've all agreed that the Buffalo Sabres are at least a somewhat better hockey team on paper. Again, it's hard to trust a rookie goalie. We've seen future Hall of Fame goalies like, Fleury in his first year struggle, right? Carey Price in his first year struggle. It is tough for goalies to come in and have success. That being said, nobody outside of maybe a Buffalo sports fan can tell me who the two goalies on their roster are, because I didn't know until this morning, until I was reminded that it was Eric Comrie and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. And I was like, okay, well, he has the crease to himself. So all he can do is lose it. That's all he can do. Buffalo is going to be a fun team to watch, which means maybe Devon Levi ends up in what I call the Martin Jones syndrome, which is a goals against average is pretty up there. Save percentage is not very good, but he's going to finish with 35 wins because he's just going to play a lot. And it's going to be that back and forth hockey. The Atlantic Division is not very good, right? There are some teams that are going to regress. So there's opportunities here for Buffalo to do well. And I think his over-under on wins is set at 24.5. So again, there's a lot of things that I may not trust about him, but as a 13th goalie off the board, and I think that is a reach at 13. I think a lot of people have him farther back than that. So he may be 13 on NHL.com's list, but you may end up and show up in your Yahoo or your ESPN draft and they haven't ranked probably outside of the top 20. So I would have no issue as a second goalie going with Levi, because like who's taking his spot? Nobody. And volume at one point, if you're in a league that doesn't penalize you for losses, if you're in a league that rewards saves and save bonuses like, for daily, DraftKings does, he has all that working for him. So if it doesn't work out, all right, fine. Then you can go and pick up whoever is there. But it is his net to lose. I understand the risk. I will definitely take, because that's how you win championships, right? You got to take risks to win them. If you're safe, you're going to finish, eliminated in the first round and you had a good time. Or you can try to win the championship on draft day.
Sports Bettor Court is now in session. It's time for tonight's litigants. First, John Jansen, host of The Lineup Change from 8 to 11 p.m. on Fox Sports The Gambler in Philadelphia. Follow John on Twitter/X at JJansen34. Next, Matt Tanner, a.k.a. Matty Betts. Subscribe to Matt's YouTube channel and follow him on social media at Matty Betts. That's Betts with 2 S's. All rise for the Honorable Judge Dan Lust.
Thank you. Please stay seated. Don't get out of your seats. We say all rise, but we'll give that to Aaron Judge. Gentlemen, welcome. Welcome to the Sports Bettor Court. Mr. Betts, before we get into this, I have to ask you a question. Was Matty Betts with 1 S taken? Is that the case here?
Yeah, there's a couple of platforms where 1S was taken. Of course, it was inactive accounts that wouldn't hit me back on the DM. And then I was like, screw it. I'm just going to go with 2 S's everywhere. And here we are.
We might need to sue someone. I'm always on the lookout for potential lawsuits as a judge on our show, but a lawyer in real life. Okay, Matt, John, welcome to the show. I think you guys know the format. We play best 2 out of 3. We have a couple of spreads, a couple of futures. We award points to the best advocate here. And if you win, you can do a victory lap on social media after you win, after the fact. Okay. Let's do this. First bet of the day, case number 1. Maybe this is relevant to the analysis. I have to disclose this. Your Honor, Judge Lust is a Buffalo Bills fan. Buffalo Bills against the Washington Commanders. The line, as I see it, is 6.5 in the Bills' favor. I am impartial. Listen, if you guys think the Bills are not going to cover, full disclosure, I had the Bills not covering to the Raiders last week, and I lost. So that's what I get. Matt, lead us off. Matty Betts with 2 S's. Who do you like here? Bills plus 6.5, or Bills minus 6.5, or Commanders plus 6.5?
Yeah, so week 1, Josh Allen and the Bills looked absolutely terrible. Last week, I hammered the Bills. I knew it was a great bounce back spot for them. This is a week that I'm actually willing to fade them again. I'm not willing to say that this Bills team, everything is just magically fixed after a stomping of last week. You're looking at a 2-0 Washington team at home, getting too many points here. I love the points at home, and watch out for the upset.
Okay. I'm following. Listen, I'm a Bills fan. I hate to say it. I lost money last week, but it is what it is. Okay. John, what do you like?
Yeah, hedging your happiness, I guess there, Mr.
I
Lust.
guess.
But yeah, no, I think Buffalo. I don't think the number is right to where they are because Josh Allen, obviously in the primetime game, Zach Wilson was the quarterback when they lost. I don't think it's yet because they end up beating the Raiders in a throwaway 1:00 game. I don't think it's yet kind of back the headline. Buffalo's back. Josh Allen looked incredible against the Raiders. He right now ranks first in completion percentage over expected. He's fourth in total EPA, and that's with the first game against the Jets. So I think Buffalo is getting a little bit of a short number here. Now, of course, I'm betting that because of the half a point. If that goes up to 7.5, we're talking a little bit of a different story. I'm just looking at it this way. If Buffalo wasn't a double-digit point favorite against Washington at home, I would be scratching my head a little bit. And conventional betting wisdom says, 3 points for the home team. So this is a 9.5 point spread. I think Buffalo's defense also is the real story here. Third right now in defensive DVOA, third in rush DVOA. Brian Robinson had 4.8 yards per carry. He doesn't average that much. I think his career, he's averaging less than 4. So I just think the running game's not going to work. This is going to be, can Sam Howell and Eric Bieniemy outduel Josh Allen? And to me, that is a resounding no.
So, okay. Judge Lust does some research here. I don't just have my law clerk, Anthony Rivera, do the research for us. I do some research myself here. The look-ahead line in the offseason, okay, that number was plus 4.5. So this number has climbed despite the Bills losing to, the Jets in prime time, looking pretty good against Carr and the Raiders, but I'm not sure how much that plays. And on the other end, I'm not sure how many people were sitting here thinking that the Commanders would be 2-0 and Sam Howell looking competent and Eric Bieniemy, also looking competent in the new role over there with Washington. So I'm having a hard time seeing how this number has climbed to 6.5 from what we've seen from Buffalo and Washington thus far. Matty bets with 2 S's. What say you? This look-ahead line seems a little suspicious.
Yeah, it's all recency bias based off of last week. And
Washington won last week, though.
Yeah, but everyone's looking at Buffalo. I think it was 38-10 or a crazy blowout game, and Josh Allen is all of a sudden back. And it's just funny because you look at the ticket percentages, like everyone 79% is already betting on 79% of the tickets are already on Buffalo this week. I agree with you. I don't think the numbers should have risen from the look-ahead line, especially with this Washington team being 2-0 to start the year.
John, what say you? I'm thrown off by the 4.5. Whenever I see a weird number, this line seems to have trended in what I think would be the wrong direction. But John, go ahead.
Yeah, and look, I have a feeling all these offseason lines, especially ones with look-aheads, are going to be a little bit safe, and they obviously adjust to what we've seen. I don't think it's adjusted enough, though. I think week 2 is more of what we saw from Josh Allen last year and what we see from Josh Allen. But Josh Allen is capable of games against the Jets that happen. He did it against Urban Meyer's Jacksonville Jaguars in 2021, where he threw up a complete dud, and they lost that game 9-6, one of the few wins that Jacksonville had that season. So Josh Allen is prone to those games. I know this is risen. There's a lot of sharp money right now. It seems like on Buffalo, there's a lot of public money on Buffalo, but I think it could move up even more, and I think it will end up moving up more. If Buffalo ends up winning that game in week 1, yeah, we're looking at a way higher number, and Buffalo should have won that game week 1. Washington should probably be 0-2. So to add in some of the luck as well, the luck variable adding into that, it's hard to quantify that, but there's been some luck. Washington runs into a Denver team that makes a lot of mistakes. Russell Wilson makes a lot of sacks. They had 7 sacks against Russell Wilson. He was the most sacked quarterback last year as well. So there's a lot of luck, a lot of different factors that run into that I don't think apply to Buffalo.
Okay, so Washington beats what we all think is the worst team in the league, Arizona. Barely beats them 20-16. Not a topic on this show, but it seems like Arizona maybe pulled the tank job 2 weeks in a row. So, Arizona had a lead at halftime. They end up blowing it. Okay, they end up sneaking out a win at Denver. There is a world where Washington could be 0-2 here. So I guess the question, and I'll leave this for you, Matt. You can get the final word here. Do you believe in the Commanders? That's the question here. I'm sensing when you're taking plus 6.5, you believe the Commanders. I don't know. I
believe in the number they're getting at home much more than believing in the Commanders for the season. there's no doubt they've had some good fortune to start the year, but you're still 2-0 at the end of the day. You're getting 6.5 points at home. Buffalo, I believe, still has their problems. I think Josh Allen, you're going to see a big roller coaster ride this season where he looks like the best QB in the league one week, and then the very next week he can turn the ball over or make mistakes. I just think it's too many points on the road.
Okay. As the resident Bills fan among us, no one said it, but the Bills got that get-right game in Buffalo. In New York, they didn't look too good. I'll have to wait to see it. 6.5 is a lot of points. I'm a Bills fan. I am hedging my, I guess it's an emotional hedge, which cost me a lot of money last week, which I did not enjoy doing. But I hate to say it. I'm going. I think this is a tight game. I don't think the Commanders will win, but I think this is a tight game. Matty bets with 2 S's. I'm going with you for round 1. John, don't worry. There are still 2 rounds left here. Now, before we go anywhere, we are in the midst of the fantasy season. Start a free 7-day trial of Fantasy Alarm's All-Pro subscription today and get DFS content and NFL picks for all of week 3 for free. Go to fantasyalarm.com/win. Okay. We will stick within the AFC East for this one. The New England Patriots against the Jets. We've covered this. I think we covered all 3 of these. The New England Patriots, we were all over. We had 2 different cases talking about the New England Patriots over-under win total for the season, which I believe was 7.5. We said, listen, Belichick only once has been under 8 wins. That was with that crazy Cam Newton team. I don't know. We think that this is a very serious team. And then kind of have 2 clunkers, 2 games they probably could have won even against the Eagles. And obviously last week against the Dolphins, that game should have been much closer. Now, the Jets, on the other hand, we've talked about that over-under win total. I was slamming the under, so Judge occasionally gets one of these right. I said Rodgers is 40 years old, coming off of the worst year of his career. I'm not sure why people think he's all of a sudden going to trend back. So I'll take a lucky win on that one. Now we have 2 basically must-win games for 2 teams, which, I don't know, kind of in the middle zone here. Patriots and Jets, the line as I see it right now is Patriots -2.5. John, you went second last time, so you will lead off this time. What do you got?
Yeah, it's a hard one to go against because the Patriots have been excellent against the Jets. I don't even want to say the last time that they ended up losing to the Jets because it's a long time ago, and I'm trying to make a good case here for the Jets. And it's hard to make a good case because of Zach Wilson, but the case can be made because of the Jets' defense and the Jets' secondary. The Jets faced probably 2 of the better passing offenses in the first 2 weeks, Buffalo and Dallas. Dallas ended up having strong success with Dak Prescott, 31 of 38 at home in Dallas. And Mac Jones has had some success, but the thing is, Mac Jones has done it against a soft coverage and banged up secondary with the safety position with the Eagles, and also a banged up secondary against the Miami Dolphins. Can Mac Jones do it against DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner? That's a different story to me. They don't have any playmakers on the outside. I don't count Kendrick Bourne as a playmaker, Devontae Parker. And what if they can run in this game? What if they can control the clock, do it that way, but they can't run the ball? They're one of the worst rushing teams so far this season, and I don't see that getting any better behind that offensive line, which I think rates is one of the worst, I think, in the NFL. So I think the Jets defense is where we can see them win. Look, Pittsburgh had the worst offense and still has the worst offense going in to that week 2 game on Monday night, but they won because of defense, because of turnovers. Sauce Gardner dropped a turnover against Dak Prescott. If Mac Jones has to throw the ball 30 to 40 times against this defense, I think that leads to some turnovers and the Jets defense providing offense for what could be a lackluster offense. Also, the explosiveness that the Jets have, they have better explosive playmakers with Garrett Wilson on the outside, as well as Breece Hall, who is excellent for them in week 1. I just think the explosive plays are going to happen at least once or twice for the Jets, and that could be enough, and I think is enough to end up beating the Patriots at home.
Okay, process of elimination. Matt, you're on the Patriots -2.5?
I am, and he makes a lot of good points here. However, I'm not ready to sell the New England Patriots, right? They've arguably played a top 2 or 3 team in the AFC and the NFC the first 2 weeks of football. I understand there's been some injuries in those teams' defenses and in their secondaries. However, I do think this is a Bill Belichick business trip here on the road. I just think that they're looking at this game and they cannot lose. They lose this game. Next week, you go to you play Dallas the week after, and you're potentially 0-4, right? And you look at the trend of teams that are 0-2 against the spread the first 2 weeks of the season historically cover the 3rd week the majority of the time, right? So I do have some concerns that the Patriots didn't have a lot of success stopping the run last week. But I think Breece Hall is a little bit banged up. He's questionable, I think, as of today. And to top it all off, Patriots 5 straight games covering against the spread against this Jets team. I got to take New England here, and it feels very square. I'm not going to lie to you, but I got to take them here at -2.5. I have to do it.
Okay, so let's see who knows this. Again, the judge has to come with some research. What was the Bills at Jets line in week 1? Anybody know it? Can anybody get within
it was 2.5 Buffalo, 1.5. I know it moved
2.5. 2.5 line. I think it got right around 2 by kickoff, but it's in that vicinity. I'm looking at this line. This is Patriots at Jets. It's a 2.5 line. Listen, just seems a little odd. Seems a little odd that the Patriots and the Bills are getting the same exact line when we're all sitting here. We'd all raise our hand, right? By show of hands, who here thinks that the Bills are better than the Patriots, right? All of us. All of us think. You guys got to raise your hand. John, do you not think? Okay, good. I got a little nervous.
No, I do.
Got a little nervous for a second. Yep. So again, I'm someone that I always try to look at suspicious lines. Now, John, you did mention, right? You talked about that week 1 game, Bills versus Jets. The Jets didn't just cover; they outright won that game. I need you to make sense of this line for me. Do you think this line is just off? Do you think that the Jets shouldn't be getting this much here? We're missing something, right?
Well, it's the Zach Wilson effect. I think Zach Wilson probably rates by these sports books as the worst quarterback in the NFL. Probably shouldn't even be a starting quarterback for the Jets. They should probably
won that game.
Somebody.
They didn't win it with Rodgers.
Yeah, they won that game,
Wilson.
and they won it off of special teams with Gibson. They won it off of defense. Josh Allen turning the ball over.
Wilson threw a touchdown. Wilson threw a TD.
He did, and Wilson
almost
threw a touchdown last week too.
Wilson basically intercepted it, but go ahead.
Right. It's Josh Allen's 3 interceptions, 3 interceptions that he had, all to the same guy, by the way, in the special teams. But that's something that's hard to quantify week to week, that's going to happen. That's going to be the same thing, that the Jets are going to get that play. But I think in this game, it can happen because the Patriots just don't have the playmakers that I think can win one-on-one against DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner. It's going to be very tough. They're going to have to rely a lot on Hunter Henry, which they have. Hunter Henry in fantasy has been the second best tight end in fantasy football so far. So I know Hunter Henry has done an excellent job, but you can't just win off of Hunter Henry. You're going to have to try and get the ball downfield. That's what Mac Jones had to do. And I think it's going to be difficult to do against the Jets defense. So I think the Jets defense can come up with those plays again.
John, I'm going to get you the last word here. I know we're going right back to you. How many points did the Bills score on Monday Night Football against the Jets?
Ooh, they scored less than 20.
Less than 20, 16 points. 16. I think if you hold the Patriots to 16 points, hopefully the Jets come with that number. Hopefully. John, I'm going to go with you for round 2. I think there's a lot of consistency, obviously, with the Jets defense. Zach Wilson is competent, but if you can beat the Bills outright on Monday Night Football, I think in a less showy game, the Jets can, dare I say, beat the Patriots at home. We'll see. So we are 1-1 heading into round 2. When we come back, the rubber match, the bet of the week, round 3. When we come back.
Jake Ferguson, I think, is going to be one of the biggest frauds in fantasy, to be honest. I'm trading Jake Ferguson in Dynasty for anything right now. I'm trading him in redraft if somebody will take him. He scored the touchdown on a 1-yard play this week, but this guy, last week, he played 75% of the snaps, only ran 50% of the routes. This week, we were hoping that would change. He only ran 21 of 43. Not even half again. So we were hoping it would improve from 50, worse than 50. So Jake Ferguson, not the guy we want. And you saw it. I mean, if you watch the game, they weren't locked in on anybody. They had Hayden Hendershot out there, got a goal line carry. Luke Schoonmaker, the rookie, scored a touchdown. Like, they are not committed to just one tight end. And if you have CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup and Brandon Cooks and Tony Pollard, if the tight end isn't playing every single snap, then he's not relevant. I mean, even if the one guy was playing every snap, you're not going to get a Dalton Schultz because there was no Brandon Cooks last year, and Michael Gallup was coming off an ACL. So the conditions changed, and now this guy's playing a partial snap share. Sell Jake Ferguson now. And people tell me, Dak Prescott loves throwing to the tight end. That's not even true. There was a guy on Reddit that just posted a study. His name is, I call cats or something like that. Great study, though, that showed that Dak Prescott doesn't target the tight end on an above average level. I mean, CeeDee Lamb got 156 targets last year. 156. And Michael Gallup and Noah Brown combined for 150. So, and the running backs combined for 85. So what is it? Does he love the tight end, but he also loves CeeDee Lamb, and he also loves the other wide receivers, and he also loves the running backs, or just Kellen Moore just throw the ball a ton? That's what it was, right? So it's like this whole he loves the tight end situation. That's not even true, right? Or he just loves everybody. Maybe he does love the tight end, but clearly he loves CeeDee Lamb. No, like clearly he loves the running backs. So just don't worry about it. Forget about it. Trade Jake Ferguson for whatever you can get right now.
All rise for Sports Bettor Court with Dan Lust on Bettor Sports Network.
We are back. We are back for the rubber match. Before we do that, FanDuel up to $2,500 no sweat first bet by using fantasyalarm.com/FanDuel. That's a giant $2,500 no sweat first bet. Too bad. I'm on the FanDuel bandwagon, but if you haven't for some reason, $2,500 is a massive, massive incentive. Okay, we're in it. We are 1-1, the rubber match heading into case number 3. So this is where I get to pick the bet. This is a line that I am and have been willing to spend my personal money on. So yes, you guys got the warm up in. You guys each won a round. Okay, this is the real one. This is the one where Judge Lust invests his personal money in. So you guys, some skin in the game here. You don't want to get in the judge's doghouse. Okay, so I'm looking at the Bengals. I watched them last year get off to a slow start without Joe Burrow. They started, lost a couple games, and they racked off a couple, and then they made their giant trip through the playoffs. Right now, we have an 0-2 Cincinnati Bengals once again, and the odds to make the playoffs. Judge Lust was looking around, perusing, seeing what was out there. Gentlemen, I'm seeing -110. So it's a 50-50, a coin flip for Joe Burrow in the Cincinnati Bengals to make the playoffs. Matty bets with 2 S's. I will give you the floor here. Do you like the yes or you like the no? And John, unfortunately, going to have to take the other end of whatever Matt picks here.
I'm going no this year. I know last year they started 0-2. And I think they rattled off 8 straight wins, I think it was, at the end of the season. I just cannot see them replicating that performance this year. If you look at the back end of their schedule in 2023, I mean, you're talking the Browns, the Chiefs, Steelers, Vikings, Colts, Jags, Steelers again, Ravens. When you put yourself in this big of a deficit every single year, I just don't think they're going to be able to replicate it. I am also concerned about Joe Burrow staying healthy throughout the entire season with that offensive line. So I like no at -110, but I don't love tying up my money on a season-long bet at -110 either.
Okay, John, you heard it. That's the best bet argument for Matty Betts. Can you top that? Cincinnati Bengals to make the playoffs. What's the argument?
Yeah, I think that is the tough thing, Joe Burrow's injury, because the calf injury, that could be extended time at some point. But as of right now, he's going to try and play in this game. They have been an 0-2 hole before, and they were able to get out of it. But it's not just that. I thought the AFC wild card was going to be a bit crowded. Now, of course, there's still 2 ways for Cincinnati to get in. They can win the division. Right now, Baltimore's at the top of that. Baltimore clearly looks like the better team. Baltimore has an injury history. They've been injured before, especially at the quarterback position. If that happens again, then the AFC North is wide open for Cincinnati to kind of backdoor this thing. But I'm looking more at the wild card too. Some of the teams I thought that would be in this position, the Chargers, but the Chargers I think could go 0-3. I actually like Minnesota in that game. And if the Chargers start 0-3, then you can eliminate them from that contention. And also the Jets. The Jets with Zach Wilson aren't the same with the Jets with Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, we were still kind of on the fence of whether or not they could compete for the wild card, but completely take them out of that as well. So Cincinnati, as long as these teams are going to keep Cincinnati in it, and Joe Burrow to get healthy enough by the second half of the season to rattle off these wins, we know Joe Burrow and Cincinnati in pressure situations can play well. And in the second half, if they have to play and rattle off, 7-8 straight wins, I think that team's good enough, especially at the wide receiver position with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, and also Joe Burrow. It's elite play. It's elite quarterback wide receiver play, and that is, I think, valuable to me. But it's just a wild card, and the rest of the AFC, they're pretty much going to give them every opportunity to get that.
John, I might be drinking the Kool-Aid here. Let's just go through the divisions really quick. I think this is really where it comes down to, right? We look at the AFC East. The Jets are not going to be a contender. I don't think the Patriots are at this point. Okay, so cross 2 teams off that may or may not have been, right? You go to the AFC West. People were expecting the Chargers maybe to be the team. They're 0-2. Okay, they're right in the same boat as the Bengals. Broncos not doing much. I don't think anyone's expecting much out of the Raiders. Okay, so now we have 3 teams that are maybe. Okay. Nick Chubb's out for the year with the Browns. The Steelers, I think, is 50-50. You get the Ravens. Okay. Then we go to the AFC South. I don't know. I guess the Jaguars, the Titans, you probably get one team from that division. That seems like we're in a wide open race. Remember, guys, we have an extra playoff team this year. Matt, I'll come back to you here. I think John raises some good points. The actual landscape of the AFC, we have to pay attention to. So maybe, yes, it's 0-2, but maybe it's an easier 0-2 than it even was last year. What do you say, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Titans are better than people think. I think they're capable of making a run, and I think Justin Herbert and the Chargers can also turn the season around. And I would argue that he could probably stay healthier more so than Joe Burrow's chances are of staying healthy. So I think those two teams could definitely make a run.
Well, the question is whether you think the Bengals are going to make that run. So those teams that you mentioned are both 1-1. I mean, they're a game back here. John, we'll come back to you. I'm going to give you the final word, John. The question again, right? And no one has really brought it up. The real question behind this bet. Joe Burrow suffered an injury this year. He was away from the team for several weeks. Everyone was panicking that he was going to have some really serious injury. He's seemingly playing through it. It's a very different Joe Burrow than we saw the last 2 years. Everyone's investing in T. Higgins and Jamar Chase in fantasy. We're not seeing that offense. I remember last year, I think it was the week 2 game. Bengals should have beat the Dallas Cowboys in that game. Someone's going to tell me what quarterback that was for the Cowboys. Anybody know? I forget. Who's the guy that took over for Dak last year? Cooper Rush. Lost to Cooper Rush, but it's not because Joe Burrow was playing bad. Just somehow Cooper Rush channeled his best Dak Prescott. Are you concerned at all? You're the guy that's saying the Bengals are going to make the playoffs. Are you concerned at all about Joe Burrow's health for week 3 onward?
Yeah, there's certainly got to be some concern because he re-aggravated it. It's not something that just went away. He re-aggravated it. And, if they play him again and he re-aggravates it again, he could probably be out even longer. So it's certainly a concern because he is the elite. The elite part of that team. Him and the wide receivers are the ones that make them playoff contenders. But I think if we just take a deep breath, Joe Burrow gets on the field. He's able to make a few plays. I think all of this injury worry just goes away. We know he's had some injury history in the past, but he's also played through injuries before. I think that this guy is battle tested. I think this entire team is battle tested mentally. They've again been having to go through these situations before. They've won playoff games very tough. I just think this team's experience certainly plays a part in that in a winning organization, which is odd to say, of course, about Cincinnati, which hasn't had a lot of winning. But they've won a lot with Joe Burrow. And I think if they handle this right, which it seems like so far they're handling it right, Joe Burrow will be around. And again, I think he'll play through even some injury aggravation as the season goes along. I just think Joe Burrow is a gamer in the same way. I don't want to compare him to Tom Brady, but in the same way that kind of a Tom Brady is. This guy games, this guy balls out, and I think he's going to figure it out. I think sooner rather than later, and could figure it out in week 3.
Week 3 Rams, week 4 Titans, week 5 Cardinals. You'd think there's probably 2 wins there. I'm just looking at the numbers. If you told me in week 1 that I could get the Bengals as a coin flip to make the playoffs by week 3, if Joe Burrow's leg is still attached to him, I'm going with the Bengals here. John, I am going to give you round 3 and the best bet and the win overall. Matty bets with 2 S's. Valiant effort. But today I got to roll with Joey Burr and the Bengals. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. This has been the Sports Bettor Court with your judge, Dan Lust. Appreciate it, guys. Excellent job.
Thank you.
Signing off.
Sports Bettor Court is now in recess. Join us next week, Wednesday at 6 p.m., where we weigh the odds and settle the score with the Honorable Judge Dan Lust.